Hey, Guy Powell here with the backstory on the Shroud of Turin. Today we're doing a series of interviews promoting the upcoming Shroud of Turin conference that's taking place in St. Louis at the end of July and the first couple of days in August. Today I'm speaking with Bob Rucker, and he is a longtime researcher and speaker on the Shroud, and he will also be, of course, speaking at the conference. So let's dive in. Welcome, Bob. So good to have you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what drew you, first of all, into learning and studying and researching the Shroud of Turin?
Well, when I was about 12 years old or so, in the Sunday paper, there was a little magazine that came out called Parade. And I saw a little picture, maybe, inch and a half high, just of the face. It looked like a strange looking face, but on the right-hand side, little paragraph, about 3 or 4 sentences. Last sentence I remember said many people believe that this is the burial cloth of Jesus. And at that time, I thought, well, this can't possibly be true. I mean, if that were true, everyone would know about it. It would be so well known and highly respected. Why would anyone talk about anything else? But then I afterwards, I thought, well, I need to be a little bit more open-minded than that. So then in a bookstore, I saw a book on the Shroud, and so I bought the book. And then years later, I found another one, and I bought that, and I read them. And so I became convinced, just based upon the evidence that was being presented, that this probably really is the burial cloth of Jesus. Just amazing. And so I couldn't follow up on it at that time very much because I was very busy. I was going to University of Michigan, took a master's degree in nuclear engineering there, and then I worked in the nuclear industry for about 38 years. And then after that, then I got into Shroud Research, and I've been in it now for about 12 years, I'd say.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, and your nuclear background and everything is directly tied to some of the insights that you'll be presenting at the Shrouds. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. Well, some of the new items that I'll be presenting, and I'll be speaking 3 times on the academic program and 1 time at the other program, the day pass or
The
or
public sessions. Yep.
the public sessions. So I'll be speaking 4 times total. But I recently put out a paper on, I've written about 14 papers on carbon dating, and they're on my website, shroudresearch.net. The last one on carbon dating was paper 33, and the last paper on image formation was paper 34. So I'm going to be bringing that information to the conference and then bringing any new information as well. On carbon dating, I'm currently involved in restarting the calculations that I completed in 2014. And these are nuclear analysis computer calculations on the Shroud of Turin in an attempt to explain the carbon dating of the Shroud. And I think this is going fairly well. There's actually not just one evidence for related to carbon dating of the Shroud, but there's actually 4 evidences. And whatever concept actually explains the evidence has to explain all 4 of those evidences. So it's not just the mean date of 1260 to 1390, but it's also the slope or gradient of the date of about 36 years per centimeter, 91 years per inch. It's also the range and the distribution of the carbon dates for the 12 subsamples that were actually dated. And then there is also the carbon date for the Sudarium of Oviedo, which is believed to be the face cloth of Jesus. So the correct explanation for the carbon dating has to be consistent with all 4 of those evidences, not just the one. Because if you say that the Shroud must have been from 1260 to 1390, then you can't explain the other 3 evidences of carbon dating, which is very interesting. And then on image formation, I have a concept that's a radiation based. I believe that the images, the front and back, full size images of a crucified man that can be seen on this piece of cloth was caused by a burst of radiation from the body. But it's often assumed that when you say that, you mean that it's due to radiation damage. But I'm not referring to that. I recognize that it's not due to radiation damage, but I believe it's due to deposition of electrical charges on the cloth, which causes an alternating current in the fibers, which actually deposits heat exactly where the fibers are discolored. And so I think that's the best explanation. It's the only one really that fully is consistent with the evidence, I think.
Yeah.
And so those different issues are going to be discussed. I'm going to be presenting my latest concepts, the latest thinking I've done on image formation. But this concept is the only concept that makes an attempt even to explain both the image formation and the carbon dating because they're related. So the burst of radiation released protons and neutrons, and the protons formed the image, I believe, and the neutrons shifted the carbon date to a more recent date. The electrons involved would have also been released, and that caused several different electrostatic effects related to the Shroud of Turin. And I'll be discussing that in the conference as well. That's not really been discussed
Yeah,
before.
yeah. Well, that is so fantastic, and we're going to tease the audience on this, and that is that here we have the one refutation of the carbon dating, and then one of the other theories is the fact or the hypothesis that there was some cotton or modern material mixed with the samples. So we're going to be talking about that. And then I think the other question that comes up a little bit in my mind is on the 12 samples that were carbon tested, do we have the actual sequence in which they were tested as they were positioned on the cloth and cut from the cloth?
Well, that's an interesting question, and unfortunately, I don't believe that they recorded that because we've never had any report. It was not in the document that was published in 1989 on the carbon dating. But based on my concepts of neutron distributions in the tomb, both in two different directions, X and Y directions, I believe that I can back out where those 12 subsamples were located based upon the results that were obtained. So I'm currently involved in attempting to run many, many neutrons. I ran one case for 9 days. I followed 2.2 billion neutrons to try and get enough new carbon-14 produced in the subsamples such that the uncertainty would be small enough.
Yeah. One question that I run into quite a bit, and maybe more so with Protestants than with Catholics, and not to differentiate that strongly between the two, but one thing that I hear quite often is, "Hey, my faith is strong enough. I don't need a relic to prove that there was that Christ existed and lived on the earth and was resurrected." How do you how do you respond to that?
Well, you might have a very strong faith, but your neighbor doesn't, and he needs the Shroud of Turin. And I find it very attractive to many people when they see evidence for the front and back image of a crucified man that is obviously Jesus. That's what I would say, because all the features on this cloth are exactly what was described of Jesus in the Gospels in the New Testament as to how he was crucified. So it was either Jesus or it was a person that was crucified to copy Jesus. And then I go one step further and I say, well, that's just one criteria. The other criteria is that you have to have a burst of radiation from the body to explain the image formation and the carbon dating. And both of those criteria are only fulfilled by Jesus in his resurrection, so that what we end up with here is that the Shroud of Turin is scientific evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. And that changes everything.
Yeah, and that's a powerful message, and we'll certainly be touching on that and diving into that in great detail at the Shroud Conference. So, lastly, how has the Shroud affected your faith?
Oh, well, yeah, every time I come to the evidence again, it just confirms to me the certainty of his resurrection. And, in the New Testament, it was the resurrection of Jesus that allowed Christianity and the Christian teachings about Jesus and who he is and what he said and what he's done that proved that he really is God in the flesh. This evidence really does change everything. How we look at life, it changes our total worldview. And it supports even those who say they have enough faith. Well, realize that doubting Thomas, might have said that he had enough faith and didn't need any other evidence, but Jesus came to him anyway and provided additional evidence. I think that God has been holding this evidence and for the right time to be revealing. And I think the right time is now, probably shortly before his second coming. I don't know when that is of course, but I expect God to be really revealing various evidences. Noah's Ark, the Ark of the Covenant, and scientific evidence for the resurrection, in order so that people will not be sitting on the fence. They'll be forced to get down on one side or the other. Either you believe or you don't. So that judgment then will be easy.
How great to put that, and you're so right. And I can definitely see where the shroud, I mean, certainly for my faith and those of us that are shroud researchers, but all Christians, whether regardless of what denomination, all Christians, I think the shroud will have and does have an impact on your faith.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you look at it, you can read the testimonies that we have in the Bible. And I think those really are convincing. But it's even more shocking when you first show a person the front and back image that was made at the instant of Jesus' resurrection on this piece of cloth.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that, we're going to close it off. This is an introduction to hopefully all of the things that you can find out and learn about and discuss and be an experience and find out really what and how valuable the Shroud of Turin is. So that'll be at the International Shroud Conference, and that you can find more information out at Shroud2025conference.com, Shroud2025conference.com. Bob, thank you so much for this, and otherwise to the audience, we hope to see you all there.
Very good. Thank you.